educator at the St. Louis Art Museum. Welcome to Wee Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking about animals. We'll start by reading a story together, then we'll be looking at some art from the museum's collection, and we'll end by making our own art together. Feel free to pause the video at any time if you'd like to get a closer look, if you'd like to talk about something with the people that you're with, or if you need to gather some art supplies. Are you ready? Let's get started. Today we're going to be reading a story called From Head to Toe. If you've joined me for Wee Wednesday before, you may know that when I read a new book, I like to take a look at the cover to see if I can find out some things about the story before I read. Let's take a look at this cover together. What do you notice? I see one big clue on this cover. I see a gorilla. And I notice that the gorilla has one of their arms raised up over their head, and the other one's kind of dangling down. And he's got kind of a serious facial expression. What do you think the story might be about, based on what we can see? Let's find out. Now, before we get started reading our story, this story is going to invite us to make different kinds of movements with our bodies. So be sure to get into a space where you can move around freely. You can also pause the video at any time to do a movement or do a movement more than once. And if there's a movement that doesn't feel comfortable, just skip it. Let's get going. From Head to Toe by Eric Carle. I am a penguin and I turn my head. Can you do it? I can do it. Let's try that out together. Ready? We're going to turn our head side to side. Is there a noise that you might add with that movement? Try it out. I am a giraffe and I bend my neck. Can you do it? I can do it. Let's try that one out. Bend. You can bend to the other side. How does that feel? What do you think it might be like to have a neck that's as long as a giraffe's? Are there things that you think you might be able to reach that you can't reach with the way your neck is now? I am a buffalo and I raise my shoulders. Can you do it? I can do it. Let's try that one out. Awesome. I am a monkey and I wave my arms. Can you do it? I can do it. Let's try that one out. Ready? Let's try that one again because it's pretty fun. Is there a noise that you would add to that movement? I am a seal and I clap my hands. Can you do it? I can do it. Let's make a beat with our clap. So if you'd like, you can repeat after me. Ready? Let's try that together. Awesome. If you'd like, with the people that you're with, you can make a totally different beat with your clapping. Let's keep going. I am a gorilla and I thump my chest. Can you do it? I can do it. Let's make another beat while we're thumping our chests. So if you'd like, you can repeat after me. Let's try that together. Great. If you'd like, you can also try out a different beat with the people that you're with. I am a cat and I arch my back. Can you do it? I can do it. Let's try to arch our back. And you can do this one sitting or standing like the person is in the story. Ready? Can you try that again? I am a crocodile and I wriggle my hips. Can you do it? I can do it. You can also do this one sitting or standing. Ready? You might even want to add some music to this one. Great job. I am a camel and I bend my knees. Can you do it? I can do it. Bend your knees. We've already seen lots of different animals in this story. Do you have a favorite animal? What is it? Why is that your favorite animal? My favorite animal are giraffes. I am a donkey and I kick my legs. Can you do it? I can do it. Ready? Let's try to kick our legs. Make sure there's nothing around you. You can kick your legs really fast, or you can also kick your legs slow. I am an elephant and I stomp my foot. Can you do it? I can do it. All right, let's stomp our feet. That was fun. I am I, and I wiggle my toe. Can you do it? I can do it. I can do it. Can you wiggle your toes? The end. Was there an animal that we didn't see in this story that you'd like to make a movement about? I invite you to do that, and also think about your favorite part of the story and talk about that with the people that you're with. We're going to travel to the museum now to look at some works of art. Let's imagine how we might get there. Since we're talking about animals today, let's imagine traveling like different animals. Are you going to be a giant whale and swim up and down in the ocean to get there? Or are you going to be a bald eagle and you're going to soar in the sky and fly way, way, way up high? Or are you going to be a cheetah and you're going to run really, really, really fast to get there? So you decide. Once you've decided, if you'd like, you can close your eyes and imagine yourself going. Whew. Oh, that was a really different kind of journey today, being an animal. I'm really glad that we made it. In order to get ready to look at our works of art, we're going to be doing an experience I'm calling our Mindfulness Minute. Mindfulness is taking the time to slow down and really pay attention to what you're doing. To practice mindfulness today, we're going to be thinking about animals and their movements and sounds that they make. To get started, we're going to use a move that we made in the story that we read together. So let's think back to our penguin move. And remember, we got to turn our head from side to side. So we're going to do that really slowly to start. Ready? So turn one side, then come back to the center, and turn to the other side, and come back to the center. How does that feel? If you'd like, you can add a breath to this movement. So when you turn to one side, you can breathe in. And when you come back to center, breathe out. Let's try that again to the other side. Breathe in and out. Let's try another animal movement. So remember, in the story, we also moved like a giraffe. So we're going to bend our neck from side to side. Let's try that together. Bend to one side and back, and to the other and back. If you'd like, you can add a breath to this movement too. So we're going to breathe in as we tilt our head downwards to one side. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. We're going to end by doing an energizing lion breath. So what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in through our nose, and when we breathe out, we're going to stick our tongue out and make a roar. Are you ready? Let's breathe in and out. Ah! And it might feel kind of silly, but that's the fun part. Let's try it again. Ready? Breathe in and out. Oh, that feels really good. I feel much more ready to look at some really amazing works of art. We're going to look at some works of art from the museum's collection together. If you'd like, you can scroll down on the page to get a closer look at the images we'll be viewing. Feel free to pause the video at any time to do this. Take a close look at this work of art. What do you see? What noises and movements might this creature make? Let's Let's zoom in to get a closer look. What new details can you see now? This is an ancient hippopotamus sculpture from Egypt. A sculpture is a three-dimensional work of art, meaning it has a height, width, and depth. Sculptures can be made of many different types of materials, such as stone, wood, or metal. This particular sculpture is made of clay, with the finish or the surface that we see called faience, which is a stone that's been ground up, molded, glazed, and then heated to be set. This small hippopotamus is over 3,000 years old. Small sculptures of hippos, such as this one, were placed in tombs in ancient Egypt. Each of the hippo's legs were broken in order to make it harmless in the afterlife. In ancient Egypt, herds of hippos were a constant threat to farmers' fields because of their enormous appetites. One of the cool things about a sculpture is that you can see all sides of it. Let's take a look at all the sides and angles of this sculpture. Do you have an animal that's important to you? What is it and why? Let's see how another artist created art inspired by animals. Take a close look at this work of art. What do you notice? How is this work of art different from the last one we looked at together? How is it the same? This is a llama figurine created by an Inca artist from Peru. This sculpture is over 500 years old and is only about as big as a chicken egg. What do you notice about the material used to make this sculpture? This sculpture is made of gold. The Inca people who lived in the Andes region of South America believed that gold was a representation of the sun that makes all living things grow. Llamas are common in Peru and have come to be associated with the region. Is there an animal that you see frequently in your community? What animal would you use to represent your family, neighborhood, or city? If you'd like, you can talk about your ideas with the people that you're with. Now that we looked at some art together, let's travel back home so we can make our own art. So swim like a whale in the ocean, or fly like a bald eagle, or run really, really fast like a cheetah, and let's head home. For our art making project today, we are going to be making our own animal sculptures out of salt dough. Now, salt dough is clay that you can make at home to create sculptures with, or really anything that you'd like. You're also welcome to use any other kind of clay or Play-Doh that you might already have at home. But if you'd like to make your own salt dough, I'm going to show us how to do that here together. So to make salt dough, we need a few different materials, and you can find most of them in your kitchen. So I'm going to need some flour, some salt, regular old salt is fine, some water, something to mix with. So I've got a spatula here, but you can use a spoon or you can just use your hands. And then if you'd like to add some color, you can use some food coloring to do that. Or you don't have to add color. There's also other ways to add color kind of at the end. And the last thing I'm going to use, and this is going to be more for when we're molding our sculptures and when we're creating them, is some tools to add some detail. So I have some toothpicks here, I have a fork, but there's lots of different things you can use to kind of create some details on your sculptures. So to start, we're going to mix our own salt dough. So I have my flour here, and this is 1/2 cup of flour. And this creates enough salt dough to make about one small sculpture, but if you want to make a lot of sculptures or you want to make a really big sculpture, you can always double or triple the recipe. So here's my 1/2 cup of flour. I'm just going to put in my mixing bowl here. And then I have my salt. This is 1/4 cup of salt. And I'm just going to mix these together so they are combined. And if you're making your salt dough at home, make sure you do it in a place where you can get a little messy. So I've got my flour and my salt mixed together. And now I'm going to add my 1/4 cup of water. And I'm just going to add it a little bit at a time. And I'm going to mix it kind of while I go. And this will kind of help you to know what the consistency of your dough is like. And this is a really fun thing to do with your family or your friends or whoever's at your home, because you can make all different kinds of things with salt dough. So now I've got all my ingredients in my bowl. And now that they're pretty much combined, I'm actually going to use my hands, because your hands are a great tool to use for this. So I'm gonna make sure I get all the salt and the flour that maybe haven't been combined yet with my dough. And now comes the really fun part. So I'm gonna put my bowl aside, and now I have my dough here. And wherever you're working, you wanna make sure you're in a place where you can kind of get a little messy. And also, I put some wax paper down here, and that helps because then the dough doesn't stick to it as easily. So if you have wax paper in your kitchen, or parchment paper, or really just like your countertop piece of plastic, like a cutting board, those are all great things to kind of make your salt dough on. So now that we have our dough kind of formed, we want to knead it, which is just another way of saying we want to kind of combine it. You might have seen your grown-ups do some kneading if they're making bread or other kinds of doughs. And kneading's really easy. So we want to kind of take our dough, kind of have it in kind of this flat shape, and then we just want to kind of push it with the palm of our hand here. So we just push it, roll it over, push it, roll it over, push it, roll it over. So I'm gonna knead my dough here for a little bit. So now my dough is in a really nice consistency. It's really smooth. So that's kind of how you know when your dough is finished being kneading. If it looks really smooth, it's easy to work with in your hands. It's not super sticky. So if you see, I don't have a ton of dough on my hands. And I just have this really nice dough that I can make my sculpture with. Now, another thing that you can do if you want to add color is if you have food coloring, or you could also kind of experiment with some spices or other things that you might have in your kitchen. Kool-Aid is another thing that you can use. So I'm going to add a little bit of food coloring to part of my dough. And this is something you can do, you totally don't have to. I actually really like the color of salt dough. But if you want to add a little bit of color to maybe add some details to your animal sculpture, depending on what you want to make, you can do that. So I have some green food coloring here. And I'm just going to dump out kind of the extra little salt and flour that I had in my bowl here. And I'm going to put my dough here, and I'm just going to add a couple drops of my green food coloring, and then I'm just going to kind of mix it together. And you can experiment, you can make a new color, you can just use the colors that you have. And just like when we were mixing our salt dough to make it really smooth and easy to work with, you just want to do the same thing to add your color. And you can make a bunch of different colors, you can just make all your dough one color, totally up to you. So now I have some green to add to my salt dough sculpture. There we go. So now I'm going to clean up a bit, and then we're going to make our own animal sculptures with our salt dough. So now comes the really fun part, and we get to make our animal sculpture. So you can think about what animal you might want to make for your sculpture. It could be your favorite animal, it could be an animal that's important to you. Maybe you have a pet and you want to make a sculpture of them. Or you could think about maybe an animal that represents your community or your city or your family. Kind of like how we saw in the art that we were looking at together. So think about what kind of animal you want to make, and now we get to make our own animal sculpture. So I've decided that I'm going to make a snake, but I wanted to show you a few techniques that you can use while you're making your animal sculpture. So you have your salt dough in your hand, you have your really lovely dough that's nice and smooth and it's easy to work with. And what we're going to do first is I'm going to show you how to do some techniques. So this is a nice technique to create balls or spheres. And you just want to kind of roll your dough between your palms like this. And you'll get this nice, that'll help you to make, if you're making the head of an animal or you want to make something else that's round, this is a good technique to kind of make rounded things. So that's kind of our ball technique. Now, once we've got our ball, we're going to smash it like a pancake. This is another good technique if you want to make things flat or make things smooth. It's also just really fun. So now I've got my pancake. And now the last technique I want to show you is our rolling technique. So now that we've got our pancake, I'm just gonna roll it between my hands and do this. And now I can create long, skinny kind of pieces. I can rip them apart. I can keep making things skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. So that's another technique you can use to make kind of small pieces. And you can always kind of put those together, and that can be another way to do some sculpting. So those are some techniques you can use when you're creating your animal. So like I said, I'm gonna make a snake. And something you can think about is what kind of pieces do you need to make your animal? So do you need a head or legs, or what kind of body parts do you need? And then you can kind of portion out your dough for the pieces that you need. So I know I'm gonna need kind of a larger head for my snake, and then the rest of it is gonna be the body. And I think I'm gonna use my green to add some details on top of my snake. So first I'm gonna make my head. And remember, you're the artist, so if you want to make your animal look really realistic or how it looks like in real life, you can do that. Or if you want your animal to look totally different, or maybe you're gonna make an imaginary animal that you've come up with in your head. It's totally up to you. You can always kind of think about looking at a picture if that's something that you want to do. You definitely don't have to. I'm just kind of thinking about, what does a snake look like? What snakes have I seen before? But this is something that you and your grown-up can kind of talk about or research if you want to make a particular kind of animal. That can be a fun research opportunity to look at different creatures or different colors that they are, different markings that they have. Because we know there's so many different kinds of animals in our world. So there's my snake creature, and I'm kind of, just pinching with my fingers. That's a great tool to use. Your fingers are an excellent tool. Pinching, patting, these are all good things to kind of get the clay to do what you want. So there's my head. I'm just gonna set it here. And I'm working on my wax paper again so that my clay doesn't stick to, the paper or wherever else that you're working. And now I'm gonna make the body of my snake. And so I know for my snake, I'm gonna need a long, skinny body. So I'm gonna use that technique that we learned together and kind of roll the clay between my hands. And the great thing about this clay is if you do something and you don't like it, you can just mold it again. So now I have my snake body here and can kind of arrange it the way that you want. I might make its tail a little bit bigger. Just doing more pinching, more patting. To get pieces to combine, you can kind of just push them together. So there's my snake body. And now I have some tools with me to help me make some details. So I have some toothpicks and a fork here. You can use other things that you have, plastic knives or spoons, whatever you have that your grown-up says is okay to use. So I might make some little kind of stripes here. And I'm just kind of dragging my toothpick across. And you don't have to add details like this, you can. Your hands are a great tool to use in this project. They're your best tool. But if you want to add some other things, you can do that too. It's artist's choice. salt dough will last for a little while in an airtight container. So if you have like a plastic container with a lid or a glass container, anything really, it'll keep for a little bit, kind of like Play-Doh or other clays. So you can make something and then ball it up and use it again the next day. Or you can also bake it in the oven with the help of your grown-up at 250 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes. And that'll harden your sculpture and you can keep it, put it on display. So I kind of dragged it across with my toothpick, and I also just kind of pushed it into the clay to make those different stripes. And maybe I'll add some details to his nose there. He has some eyes. I'm kind of just poking. Maybe I'll use my fork for that. Oh yeah, now I got a little... You can kind of just experiment, and if you don't like something, so I don't really like that hole, I kind of just pinch it and then it goes away. Yeah, I don't really like this hole either. So, no, pinch it and it goes away. So now I got my eyes on my snake here. Now I think I might want to add some of my green details. So again, I'm using kind of that rolling technique. And I might even break that apart. I want to make it smaller. So salt dough is very forgiving. It'll work with you with whatever you want to do with it. So I think I just might add these kind of on top of the rest of my sculpture. Kind of just rolling and then pressing to add some green stripes to my snake here. Okay, so now I've got all my green details added. I might add a few more details with my fork, so I'm just going to press it kind of into the end here to make those marks. I can tap it. I might do that on his head here, so kind of make a little bit of a texture. And that is going to be our animal sculptures made from salt dough. Thank you for joining me today here at Wee Wednesday. We hope you had fun. I wanted to show you another example of a salt dough animal sculpture that I made. So this is the one that we made together. This is my snake creature that I made out of our salt dough with my green accent pieces. And I just popped it on a piece of cardboard so you can place your sculpture on anything that you have around. And I made a different one using all colored dough that I made with red food coloring. And this is my little pig. And I baked this one in the oven so he would be hard and kind of sturdy. And I just baked it at 250 degrees for about 15 minutes. So now he's solid. He's not going anywhere. So we would love to see your animal sculptures. You can share them with us on social media and use the hashtag STL Art Museum and Wee Wednesday. We hope to see you next time. Keep on creating. Bye.